It's a new day, it's a new dawn, I hope, for the California Golden Seals. In this episode, we sim through the 2034-35 season. Whether or not we have any success, that remains to be seen. But we are living in the aftermath of the most important draft this series has seen and we are likely to see, as we had the pressure of needing to hit with every pick. That was the draft that was going to set the tone for the rest of this series. If we were going to find a way to get back to the Stanley Cup final, it's going to be primarily with players that were in that draft. Those will be the guys to help boost us up back into Cup contention. And while most of you feel like I did a relatively good job, of course there are a couple of picks that we may have swung and missed on. We get to Brandon Allison's comment about Pat Ling being Fulton Reed, which is hilarious and quite accurate. But as Ronnie mentions, we should have probably taken a chance. We did not. Getting to some of your other comments, though, before getting into the sim, it is going to be a very sim-heavy episode. Builds the team around a strong D-core, fails. Builds another team around a strong D-core. What will the outcome be? Hopefully better than the previous outcome. I really think you should make an effort to get an offensive defenseman. While we do need some defensemen who can contribute offensively, we have had that despite not taking offensive D-man. Two-way defensemen, of course, can end up with really good offensive awareness, and then we just change them over. You look at someone like Andrew Zeeler. So while I agree it would be nice to get like a natural offensive defenseman, it's not the worst-case scenario to be taking the best players available like we have. Getting to Matt Rao's comment, hopefully I'm saying that right. The Bjorkstrand pick's not your fault. There's a glitch in the draft. That would make a lot of sense, but that's definitely something that I need to check out and test out a little bit more, but that's a fair point. Disappointed that Reed Rammer, the Super Serb, wasn't a god. I wish he was, just for that nickname alone. Lander, don't forget to start the franchise goalie in the AHL. Right now, with auto-rotate goalies on, both are 73 overall, so there's no guaranteeing it. Hopefully, though, Fox goes up to a 74. That would be extremely helpful, but I don't really feel like turning off auto-rotate, unlike a few years ago where I refused to use it because it was broken. There's also been a little bit of discussion as far as Bachman, whether or not he should be center, winger, second line, third line. We'll talk about that more in a second. Jay Worley, we have been trying to take advantage of RFA status. Sometimes it works, like last season. Sometimes it doesn't, like Sergei Nazarov not being offer-sheeted for 3 to 4 seasons. Derek Klein, thank you. I appreciate that. Jean, you do have a point about me kind of breezing through and having it be a little bit difficult, especially for those on mobile, to be able to take a look at certain attributes. I'm sorry for that, but man, these videos run long anyway, but I'll try to do my best to change that. Texas Hockey, Tuki's Geography Lesson, but Universe Edition or version, you can make a British joke. You know you want to. You're wrong. I don't. Spencer Martin, am I from Maine? Yes, I am. I'm a huge fan of your channel. Thank you. I'm from Lewiston. Ooh. Ooh. Yikes. For those who don't know, just imagine, like, you know that one town where you're like, ooh, yeah, that's the town for Maine. That's one of them. That's one of those towns. Sorry, Spencer, but you know, if you're from Lewiston, you know. That said, the league itself is, I've actually never heard of it. I have to look it up. And as far as using like a Lewiston Maniacs type of team, that would actually be really good for like a one-off episode. The best team from Lewiston Maniacs alumni. That might be something I end up doing. That said, let's take a look at the team before we get into the episode, because we have changed up a few things, mainly due to, you know, just being able to go best line. So like we changed Nylander to a left wing. The big debate with Bachman, and here's why I want to start him on the second line, is because based off of face-off abilities, we'd either have to call up Yang or Quincy Clements, who, funny enough, because of those puck skill categories, actually via best lines gets put onto the power play. We'd have to call up one of those two, which doesn't look ideal, or we'd have to drop Nylander down to the second line and go with something like that. Not a bad look, but I want to wait to see how Thomas Nylander does compared to Kim Nylander before we make any changes. So don't be surprised if throughout the season changes are made. I've actually bumped up Richter to be with Francois. I'm intrigued to see how this team does. Again, there's a lot of versatility in terms of line combinations, player types. There's a lot we could do. I think the main thing that we have to do right now, though, is just sim and hope for the best, especially with one Torsten Åkerlund up to an 88 overall. So that is going to be, hopefully, what the majority of this episode is. It's just us simming through and seeing how this team does. Now, we were in a similar situation just a few short seasons ago, where we were stuck simming. I'm actually going to go about midway through November. The 18th works. We were stuck simming games and just waiting to see what we were. But not in a great way, because if anything, it was, okay, are we just going to be first-round fodder for some team and just get swept out of the playoffs, which is basically what happened. This time, though, while we don't know for sure if we're going to be in the playoffs, we do have that extra optimism because we have that draft behind us. Not to mention, of course, if we miss out, it might not be the worst thing to get another relatively high pick. Now, we don't have any extra picks this year in the first round, unfortunately, but man, we're actually killing it in the preseason right now. But if we were to, say, get another top 10 pick, another top 5 pick, or even a top 3 pick, that would be a major, major boost. So if you were to say, oh, you're going to miss the playoffs this season, I don't think I'd be upset. If you were to say, hey, you're going to make the playoffs this season, I certainly wouldn't be upset. We're very much in that fringe spot right now where it's a wait-and-see game. But like I said, this time with just a tad bit more optimism as opposed to just, like I said, 2 seasons ago. So we'll see how we do. We were fairly successful in the preseason, which of course isn't an indication of anything. The Colorado Avalanche, in the year where they were absolutely brutal, had a tremendous preseason record, not a postseason record. They were far, far away from the postseason. But we'll see how things go. I won't be afraid to change things up, like I said, in terms of line combos, player types. If someone's underperforming, it's a good thing to have this type of uncertainty where we don't know what the best line combos are going to be for this team. We just don't know how things are going to look. It's not a bad spot to be in at all. Like I said, that extra bit of optimism that we have, as opposed to just 2 seasons ago, it's night and day. So this year, again, while we kept the team in a spot to miss out on the playoffs, but hopefully after the draft be able to get right back in, if this team misses out on the postseason this year, I'm not going to view it as a failure. I would certainly like to be back in the playoffs by the end of next season at the latest. But like I said, time will tell. We are in the home stretch, or at least getting towards the home stretch. We're in turn 3, we'll say. Third turn would be close to... Yeah, we're taking the third turn right now. We're approaching the home stretch, the final few seasons of this series. And I gotta admit here, through the opening month or so, we're doing quite well. We're okay right now. We're on, I think, the best course that we could be. We had the option to fully blow it up with getting rid of guys like Zieler and Ivanov too. We didn't do that. We held on to them. We go for the retooling instead, and that brings us to where we are right now, which, I mean, the record isn't incredible, as it's apparently going to be a good year for rookies. The record isn't incredible, but I'm certainly not complaining. It's nice to be indifferent about our record in a positive way, which is what it is. It's just sit back, wait to see how we do, and adjust and adapt, or as I called it, adust. So, adjust, adapt, adust. It'll be nice to adust to however we perform this season, which, again, 10 wins. 10, 4, and 2, not bad. We'll take a look at the lines. Once we play the Detroit Red Wings, that's a 2-1 victory. Not too bad. Let's see what's going on with the roster, shall we? As Kim Nylander, 13 points in 17 games, we are currently atop the division, 1 point ahead of the Vegas Golden Knights. Not a bad place to be. Let's take a look here. So Kim Nylander, 7 goals, 6 assists, 13 points for Ivanov, 6 goals, 9 points in total for Steven Moroz. Not too bad. Again, the one thing that I'm wondering here is whether or not it's the right idea to have both Nylander and Moroz on the top line, where both have proven they can carry a line in terms of offensive production. Having them together might not be the best way to go. We do have Ben McCauley on 10 points, 7 for Bachman, and 8 for Francois. Maybe switching. Maybe switching Francois and Moroz could be a good way to go. Yeah, I know he has 9 points. I'm going to do that, actually. Francois only on 8 points, but I want to have Moroz with Bachman and McCauley. Now, we do have 2 snipers on the same line, but one's clearly better than the other. I want to see how that does, and I certainly never expected to have Jean-Francois on the top line, yet here we are. Nylander on 8 points, 7 for Yang, and 6 for Boro. 4 points for Sarno, 6 for Clements, and 5 for Ricci. So everyone's doing pretty damn well. That might be a risk to change it up, but like I said, I know Moroz 6 goals in 17 games isn't bad at all. But for some reason, I feel like he can do that much better. I mean, he had 44 goals last year. He's been an absolute beast. I want to make sure he's developing to the top level that he can. 8 points for Shattenkirk, 13 for Zieler. Richter and Francois not exactly killing it as a pairing. Francois' point total is nice. And that third pairing, Vorobiev and Kolesson, or Kolosov. Kolesson. I'm going to flip that back. Let's go Kolosov, Francois, Richter, and Vorobiev, and we'll see what happens there. Like I said, Clements, that second pairing, very, very weird, but I'm not against it. And again, goaltending-wise, decent from Åkerlund, very good from Jared Van Allen thus far. I was going to check who's getting the majority of the starts in the AHL, but it's not worth going back to double check because, let's be honest, it doesn't make that much of a difference. It really doesn't. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, I want Fox to get the majority of the starts to see if he can be a late bloomer of a goaltender, but like I said, not worth it to me to turn off auto-rotate. He'll still get a decent amount of starts, as I'm actually not sure how far we're going to sim here. The main thing is, well, first and foremost, wanting the sim speed to be faster, but also wanting to make sure that Moroz is scoring to that, much greater level that he could, as we scored 14 goals in 3 games before being shut out by the previously mentioned Colorado Avalanche. Ooh, and then a 5-1 loss to Los Angeles. So, I mean, a 5-game winning streak comes to an end. We lose 2 in a row. We bounce back against Tampa, doing relatively well against Atlantic Division opponents outside of the loss to Toronto at the start of the month. Can we beat Montreal, as it's December 1st, for the first time in a while? Man, 5-0 win. For the first time in a while, December 1st isn't this horrific day for us, looming overhead on the schedule. Of course, last year it was Fragapane, I believe, getting that offer sheet on that very day, William Nylander style, and that certainly altered how the season played out. Of course, with us getting Detroit's pick at that point in time, if I'm not mistaken, it might not have been Fragapane. Someone went to Detroit. You get the point, though. We got an extra first-round pick, and that turned out to be a great thing for us. As we end up losing to Vegas. Oh, God. 10-0 against a team with a losing record. Jesus. And we also lost 4-0 to Philly. Time out. Let's take a look at things. That is horrific. I wish I could see the game stats to see what the hell happened, as Bachman's up to an 82. Van Allen down to an 890, so it might have been Van Allen that got ripped apart there, or Åkerlund, I'm honestly not sure. Nylander on 16 points. I feel like, his goal scoring has really fallen off. Francois not killing it. We actually have minus players. Wow, Moroz actually isn't scoring at all either. Okay. So we haven't simmed that far, just a couple of weeks, but the team has absolutely slowed down production. So 16 points for Nylander. You have 18 for Ivanov, just 12 for Francois. McCauley's doing well. Bachman's doing okay. Might be worth bumping Moroz back up. 16 for Nylander. Yang's doing well at 16. Boro with 14. So the bottom 6 is doing all right. Right now it's actually the top 6 that's letting us down a little bit. As outside of Ivanov, we don't really have a pure playmaker, which is concerning because I don't want to break up that third line, but bumping up someone like Quincy Clements with that playmaking ability could be exactly what we need, or Andrew Sarno for that matter. Problem with both of them is that they don't have that great of offensive awareness, whereas Ralph Ricci does. I think we need a true playmaker for that second line. Francois, should be good enough, though, with 99 offensive awareness. He should be good enough. That's the weird thing. I think I'm going to leave it as is for now, and we'll see if we can turn it around. But defensively, unfortunately, Richter and Vorobiev not exactly getting it done. Let's go with Vorobiev. We'll go Richter and Kolosov. See what happens from there. Options. Let's stay the course for now. We're still in second in the division, but I am certainly worried about some of the point production amongst that top 6. Bottom 6 looks to be doing well. And I know that I said, kind of slow and steady, maybe make adjustments if we have to, but certainly after a 10-0 loss, plus-minus numbers, while not a great stat, but still plus-minus numbers can look much, much worse than they actually are. As we do bounce back with a win against Winnipeg, lose to Vancouver, which sucks in terms of the division race, but we do beat Columbus. Is it just me, or is this going much, much more slowly than it normally does? We lose in the shootout, but I'll take a pity point. Every point counts. We have 5 games left this month. It's a 5-3 loss to Pittsburgh. Nashville, 2013-0 on the season. Eli Maroon is victorious, 7-2. And we have proven to be a pretty streaky team. This month in general has not gone well for us. That's another 4-game losing streak. We've lost 5 out of our last 6. We lose to Chicago as well. And that hot start that we were on is very much over. Down to 18, 14, and 30. Can we at least bounce back and beat Dallas to end the month? No, we cannot. It's a 5-1 loss. And we are in just a tad bit of trouble, I'd say. To 18, 15, and 3. And out of the playoffs. This is not the division to be screwing up in, and we are screwing up right now. Henry Yang is actually leading this team in points. Something has to change. Goaltending-wise, certainly the goaltending has to be better. Defensively, what are we dealing with here? If this wants to work, thank you. So Shattenkirk on 12 points and a +2. Zieler putting up points, a minus player. Vorobiev struggling. Francois putting up points but struggling. And then Kolosov still looking okay. So Richter is 6 points and a -5. Vorobiev hasn't been that great. Let's go with Francois Zieler. I'm going to go Shattenkirk. Let's go Shattenkirk, Kolosov, and then put Richter and Vorobiev back together, which is a pairing that hasn't worked, but we are going to try it. There we go. That is the team for the moment. I will check the power play as well, but offensively, let's see here. So Nylander still on just 8 goals. He has absolutely shut down offensively on us. Not great. I don't exactly want to change him to a 2-way either. That's rough. 17 points in 36 games. 21 points for Ivanov, 16 for Francois. McCauley over 20 points. Moreau's up to 11 goals. So McCauley is going to get the bump over Nylander. Francois, again, 16 points. And the 11 goals for Moreau's. You have Bachman on 11 points. Nylander on 21. Yang over 20, of course, leading the team, and Boro at 18. Let's see, Ricci 13 points, 11 for Clements, and 8 for Sarno. Right. How do we want to do this? I mean, that third line's been great to the point where it's like, oh, you could bump them up, but I'd rather have them just continue to do well. Same with the fourth line. Like, they've been pretty solid. I'd rather just have them continue to do well. I think that's the change, is Nylander, Bachman, Moreau's. We'll put Ivanov with McCauley and Francois. And as far as the power play is concerned, I think, again, we have to make the change there. Clements has done well. But I think I'd rather take Clements out, and we're going to move in Nylander, Yang, and Boro. So, Clements, you've been okay. But let's see if we can reward that third line, who have been putting up points all season long, including Boro, which I'm a little bit surprised by. Then amongst the left wings, we have the other Nylander. So I want them as a line combo. We're going to drop Francois down, the other Francois, the actual defenseman Rene Francois, down to the second pairing. And I want to have Moreau's and Nylander, I think, on different units as well. So I think there we drop Nylander. And we're going to go with Moreau's, Ivanov, McCauley, Zieler, and Francois. Looks all right to me. And then that other pairing is going to be Boro, Yang, and Nylander with Francois and Nylander. Works for me. So both Nylanders on that second unit. As far as the penalty kill is concerned, I got to be honest, even if it's not performing, it's the exact players that I want there with Bachman getting that extra time. So let's continue onward and see if these changes have had any effect. If not, there's certainly room to make changes, but unfortunately, not the changes I thought. I would have expected it to be the bottom 6 that were struggling to put up points. Not the case whatsoever, as we give up another 5 goals, and at the end of the day, you can say, oh, your defense isn't the strongest. Our goaltending just hasn't been good enough. We have been lit up. I wonder how many times we've given up 5+ goals, to the point where I actually want to look as we give up 5 goals to Arizona. How bad has our goaltending been? Let's see. How many times have we given up more than 5 goals? So 1 against Dallas. Let me know if I miss one. 2 against Toronto. So only twice thus far. We move into November. Let's see. 4 against Boston. 3 against LA. We end up beating Montreal. I mean, double it up, but at the very least 4. Man, maybe I should have done 4 goals, in fairness. 5 goals there against Pittsburgh. That's the 6th time we've allowed 5 or more. 7 against Dallas. 8. We've allowed 5 or more goals 9 times, and it's January 7th. We're not going anywhere if our goaltending doesn't tighten up. And the problem is, it hasn't just been Van Allen, who's a very low-range backup goaltender, very low-level backup goaltender, who actually doesn't even have the backup listed right now. But it's not just the defense as we give up 5 goals. Oh, God, I was going to say, it's not just Van Allen that's the issue. It's Åkerlund. He's not producing like he needs to. He's just not stopping pucks as we're down to 20-19-4. We still have time to turn it around, but we went from early on this season looking like a team that's maybe back into top 3 in the division level to now looking like a fringe team at best. So we'll see how this goes as we do put up 10 combined against the 2 Albertan teams. We play Minnesota, Buffalo, and Detroit before hitting the totally not all-star break at the end of January. Not too worried about the draft class yet because, let's be honest, I don't want to get my hopes up for anybody. But you never know, if we miss the playoffs, we could be lottery bound, as we've won 5 out of our last 6 games. Not a bad way to start to turn things around. We play Detroit and then New Jersey a week later to end the month. It's a 4-3 win over the Red Wings. What can we do against the Devils? Can we get that 26th win? Yes, we can. So we are proving to be a very, very streaky team as we're back into 4th in the division, 6 points back of the Vegas Golden Knights. Ben McCauley leading the way, 34 points in 49 games. So definitely the right guy to bump up. You have Ivanov, 31 points on the year, and Francois up to 28. Kim Nylander up to 28 points on the year. He's finally woken up a bit. Bachman on 16 points, 17 goals now for Moroz. Bachman, though, up to an 84, which is huge. You have Nylander, 8 goals, 16 assists. You have 31 points for Yang, 26 points for Brian Boro. So again, I don't want to break up that third line, although at a certain point you could have argued bump them up to the second line. I don't exactly want to drop Nylander and Moroz all the way down, though. But, I mean, with them producing the way they are, things looking good. 10 points for Sarno, 15 for Clements, and 18 for Ricci. So, I mean, the bottom 6 is delivering. It's just Ken Moroz and Nylander wake up. And, I mean, Nylander's done well to kind of turn it around. I don't know if Bachman's the guy that we necessarily want there. Again, 28 points for Francois, 17 goals for Moroz. McCauley's proving to be more of a playmaker. I'm going to risk it a little bit. And then I'm going to bump up Steven Moroz to that top line again. We're going to go Nylander, Bachman, Francois. Because I still can't help but think that's the better way to go in terms of point production. As you have the top 2 doing very well. 10 points for Kolosov. Kolosov and Shattenkirk working well together. Richter and Vorobiev have been okay. But I'm sure if we look at the goaltending, that's not good enough. Not good enough at all for Torsten Åkerlund. Down in the AHL, for the record, Mateo Fox and Gregory Konowalchuk have split the games, at least in terms of appearances. Again, that doesn't track just starts. So once again, we'll continue onward. Hopefully the addition of Moroz back onto the top line He started to wake up offensively. I think ideally we'd have Nylander and Moroz first and second line, and then if they're not going to work well together on the top line, we have them first and second line, and they each put up 30 goals. In an ideal world, at least 25. In an ideal world, that is what it would be as we win 2 out of our first 3 games. Only 4 overtime losses on the season. We need to change that. If we're going to start losing games, start getting more pity points, that's going to help us out tremendously in terms of the standings, as we have won 4 out of our first 5 games here in February of 2035. It's still crazy to me. Obviously, this series has been going on for a long time, right? And that's because we haven't made as much progress as we normally do because we got other series going on. Of course, the addition of a set plan this year, it's pushed back how frequently these videos are uploaded. But still, 2035, it feels like, I don't know what it feels like. I mean, because we still have a decent way to go, but it does feel like we're closing in on like, oh my god, it's like the penultimate season. It's not. It is not, as we bounce back with 2 wins after getting shut out by Montreal. 32 wins on the year now. Again, no overtime losses, unfortunately. Can we beat Winnipeg? Pretty damn good team in the Central. It's a 4-1 win. Huge game against Vancouver, even though they're outside of the playoffs right now. That's a win as well. We play Columbus and the New York Islanders to end the month. Of course, the trade deadline means nothing to us on March 2nd. 3-2 loss to the Blue Jackets. Can we beat New York to get our 35th win of the season? As we're going to get the alert about, hey, trade deadline's coming up any second now. And it's a shootout loss. Ask and you shall receive. I would have preferred the win, but it is a beautiful, beautiful pity point as we're up to 34, 23, and 5 on the season. I would like to think we're still within the playoff format, but the Pacific Division, as per usual, is extremely competitive. North Bay at 30, 27, and 6. We are currently in second, 2 points back of Vegas. What a turnaround it has been. Ben McCauley still leading this team in points. We'll take a look here. So 18 and 28. 33 assists for Ivanov. Now 24 goals for Steven Moroz. That's more like it. Nylander, 17 goals on the year. Not bad. 37 points. Bachman over 20 points. And Jean-Francois over 30. So it's obvious that Bachman isn't top 6 ready, right? In terms of his production. He's getting there. But in terms of us having like an 84 overall rookie who puts up 60 points, that's just not going to happen this season. But yet again, I don't want to break up that third line because they're producing like a second line. So why break them up? That's the debate. We could make them the actual second line, but if they're producing like a second line as the third line, then why bother? So taking a look here, Sarno with 14 points, actually 13 points, excuse me, simple math, 18 points for Clements. Ralph Ricci has done really well this year. And I can't help but wonder if maybe running him on the second line, whether or not that'd be a bad idea. Problem is, again, Bachman will be down to the fourth line. And I don't want to stunt Bachman's development. Again, 13 goals. I mean, it's not bad. He does have 13 goals. He's just not putting up the assists that I thought he would have, especially considering he has higher passing than shot accuracy. And as a two-way. I don't think we can do anything about it. Dropping Bachman's just not going to work. And again, that third line cannot be split up. I think we continue onward. The one thing that I'd consider, Sarno puts up a lot of penalty minutes. Now, we'd have to decide if it would be fair to turn down his fighting consistency. I know I could potentially have him listed as a playmaker, for sure, but the problem is with that physicality, how well would that work, So that's why we have Clements as the playmaker on that line. As a power forward, we still want Sarno to be a little bit offensive. Problem is, Ricci as a two-way, honestly, doesn't have a great shot, but he does have 17 goals this year. I can't help but think, in terms of if I wanted to make a change, Francois, Nylander, Ricci, Sarno, Clements, and Bachman as a sniper. Could work for that fourth line. For now, though, I think we're okay. Down in the AHL, some good news is someone like Pat Ling. I mean, he's up to a 74. Again, you still have McAmmons, Svoboda, Marlowe, who's looking really good now, up to a 79 at 21 years old. Fox and Konowalchuk still splitting the starts, which is great news for us. It's tough because I want to make changes, but you don't want to make the wrong move at the wrong time. And one other thing to note here, unsigned players. McPherson's up to an 80. I wanted to see if we had a Tate Dwyer-esque player, of course from the Vegas series, who has had like crazy development that we could sign mid-season. And Larry McPherson right now is tearing the OHL to shreds. If we don't sign him this year, we could certainly sign him next season. So that is also an option heading into the playoffs, potentially signing Larry McPherson, as Keith Hartnell will also be signed next year, no matter what. So we have two players who are looking pretty damn good, and goalie-wise, Fane, who we're not all that worried about, is also there as a fringe starter. For the moment, let's continue onward, see how we do as we approach the playoffs in a post-deadline world. We will sim to the 18th yet again. Pittsburgh and Nashville here over the next 2 nights. But like I said, pressure to get these line combos right. And it's tough when the top 6 is settled, but not ideal, I'd say, still in terms of production. And when the third line is producing at the crazy rate that they are. Again, Bachman with 15 goals. Probably too good to deny him a top 6 spot as overtime loss against Pittsburgh, and then we get destroyed by Nashville. We also lose to the Panthers. Now we're going to have to be okay. If we lose to Dallas, we have to stop this. That is 5 straight losses after crawling our way back towards the top of the division. Unfortunately, Vegas will have a decent amount of separation on us now. We do bounce back with wins. Can we beat the Rangers? We cannot. Can we beat the Sens? We cannot. If we lose to Arizona, we're going to stop the sim, which granted we're going to stop it anyway as we approach the 18th. Don't care about central scouting. I do care that we just lost 7-1. So we start off hot, screw it up for ourselves. We recover, and now we're screwing it up for ourselves again. We're back to a wild card spot. Like I said, we're in a very tough division. We can't afford to screw up for extended periods of time like this. It will absolutely cost us. So Ben McCauley, 20 and 29. Ivanov's doing all right. 26 goals for Moreau, 21 and 21 for Nylander. Bachman up to 25 points and 40 points for Jean-Francois. Again, that third line is just killing it. I cannot believe how well they're doing together. And on that fourth line, 17 points for Sarno, 22 for Clements, 27 for Ricci. It's crazy. So we do have a very well-versed team in terms of point production. The problem is goaltending. Like, we are just not getting the goaltending you would have hoped for from an 88 overall goalie. And that shows, especially with plus-minus, which, again, terrible stat, but it's one of the very few things we have to go off of. So, I don't know. I don't know. I think we just stay the course. Nylander and Francois seem to be working well together. I think we just stay the course for now. We need better goaltending. That's all it is. Åkerlund needs to prove himself in terms of, and it's a shame I can't look at values right now, but in terms of the future for us in goal, I mean, he's the guy that we need to live up to that overall. If he doesn't, in terms of having like an ideal high overall option, that doesn't exist anymore for the most part. Now, we do end up beating Washington. We end up beating Toronto, losing to San Jose. How many games do we have left this year? So we have 6 there, 8 games left. Where are we in the playoff structure? We are 1 point back of the Kings, but they have a game at hand. We're 7 back of the Golden Knights with the same amount of games played. So let's take this a few games at a time. Again, another set of games against the Flames and Oilers. For some reason, this game loves that setup, even though both games weren't on the road. We lose to Calgary and Edmonton, and there's a chance we are not going to be postseason bound. I'm going to sim this game against Minnesota really quickly, just to see what we have going on. And hopefully that's a win, and it is 3-1. So 5 games left, 39 wins on the season. We are currently in a wild card spot, but not by much. We're the 8th seed. We're 2 points ahead of Calgary. And now's the point where I have to ask myself, would it be better for us to miss the playoffs? Which, realistically, it very well could be. It very well could be. We are getting there, but I don't think we're quite there yet. And unfortunately, that's just been down to horrible goaltending. And we don't have an alternative right now. Again, Konowalchuk and Fox still splitting the games. But it's a shame. I mean, too, because defensively, we haven't seen any development out of Kolosov and Vorobyev. Kolosov's done well. Vorobyov's been pretty bad. And one could argue maybe I should have sent him down, but I mean, the alternatives, Saugus, who's not a long-term answer, and Blatny, who's actually done well to get up to a decent overall. Blatny's not terrible defensively. Saugus has good offensive awareness. It might be too little too late, but the thought of sending down Sergei Vorobyev makes sense to me. As long as we can get away with it, which we can. He's been a little bit disappointing. Now, the thing is, we have Saugus, we have Blatny, but we also have that one defenseman that we could sign now. Now, it would waste a year of his ELC, and that's the problem. Which is why Saugus or Blatny are probably the better way to go. I'm going to go with Saugus, who's a bit more experienced. And again, in terms of forwards, like, there's no one that I would send down. Everyone, for the most part, has done okay. I mean, we don't have a 70 to 80 point guy, but I don't know if I really expected us to. I was maybe hoping for a little bit more out of Moroz. So we'll get Saugus there, and we'll add Vorobyev in. Congratulations. We'll see what you can do for the Doolin Narwhal. So in terms of the offense, again, McCauley, 22 goals, 29 assists. That's honestly not bad for him. He's in a higher role than he should be. Ivanov on 49 points. He's capable of more, and that's very disappointing considering what we had to sign him to. But the thought of letting him go, we can't. Like, even if we ended up playing him on the third line. Steven Moroz, very disappointing. Only 26 goals for him. He just hasn't taken to being, the more in-demand player. Now that we're asking more of him, he hasn't lived up to it at all. Same for Kim Nylander, who last season, 76 points, only 44 points. So two of the guys we trusted to take that step up, and Nylander and Moroz, they haven't been able to do it. We've had to play Bachman in a higher role than what we've requested, and thankfully someone like Jean-Francois has been okay, but still not quite what we need. Again, it's been that bottom six that's really stepped up. At this point, it is probably too late to make the changes that we need to make, but I'm still going to try. And down the stretch here, I'm going to reward the players who have done well this year. The third line's becoming the top line. McCauley stays on the second line. And I think, let's go with, from here, the gloves are off. Ivanov's done well, but he hasn't done great. Moroz has done okay. Sure, 26 goals, but he hasn't exactly stepped up like we needed him to. Same with Nylander. Francois has done all right. Then we have Ricci and Clements, who have really stepped up. I don't know if I'd consider this, team sabotage, but I'm certainly considering. I know Moroz has 26 points, but still, there should have been more production from him. Period. So sure, you can get 26 points, but with his passing ability, we've seen snipers put up assists. He just hasn't been as good as he's needed to be. That's indisputable. I think that's what the team's going to look like. I'm not going to do anything too crazy, although dropping Bachman down could work. It's tough because McCauley still deserves that spot. Ivanov and Francois. You know what? Yeah, that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. Like I said, if we miss out on the playoffs, it's not the end of the world. this was the one year where it's like, okay, if we miss, that's okay. I mean, we've seen some players step up. We have seen others do well, but not as well as we need them to do. And we've seen other players, the goaltending, completely botch it as we beat Buffalo 3-2. We need a win over Dallas. We play all Eastern Conference teams down the stretch here. Did I just say Dallas instead of Detroit? I think I did. Still, we end up beating Detroit as well, 3-2. Up to 41 wins. Can we beat New Jersey? We can, 5-4. This is going to come down to the wire. We have Boston, who are fairly equal to us, and Carolina, who we've been better than. Where are we in the playoff structure? Still a wild card team. I mean, it's close. We're only 4 points back of the Sharks, who are on top of the division. We are the 7th seed now, as opposed to the 8th seed, and we have made the playoffs. So there you go. First season, we are back in the playoffs. Is that for the best? Time will tell. We know that we're going to have options. Right now, though, it comes down to seeding. We could still jump into the top 3, and that is the goal. Can we beat the Boston Bruins to help get us there? We cannot. 4-1 loss. So with this game against the Hurricanes, we're probably battling to not be the 8th seed. It's pretty much a guarantee that we're going to be, though. Which, to be honest, we want to finish as the 7th seed. We are 1 point back. If we win this game, Arizona will be the 8th seed and will play Nashville. We need to stay in this division. We cannot afford to have to go through the defending champion Predators to do this. We need a win right here. It's either we play San Jose or we play Nashville, and I would much, much rather play the Sharks. We need this W. This might as well be a playoff game right here, because if we come up against Nashville, I'm sorry, little giant mentality, we can do this. No. That's out the door. We're going to get stomped by Nashville, and that's not what I want. I want us to at least be able to put up a fight. First period here against Carolina, it's a goal apiece, Forsberg and Moroz. Second period, we get the lead. It's Zeeler. Can we hold on here to get us that more favorable matchup against the San Jose Sharks in the first round of the playoffs? Again, we take a step back last year. We're already back in the postseason. Maybe Maple Leaf style of making it a year ahead of schedule, much like they did against Washington. Who knows? Maybe we'll be able to put up a fight as well. As it's looking good, we needed 1 point to tie Ricci with the empty netter. And the California Golden Seals are playoff bound as the 7th seed in the conference. Åkerlund steps up in a big-time way, and maybe that's a sign of things to come with him performing better through the sim style, as every team has played 82 games. Let's get a season recap going. Again, 43, 32, and 7. We finished just 3 points back. That's the thing, man. That division was there for the taking. We're a very good team, 93 points. That division was there for the taking, though. Our power play at 20%. Our penalty kill was at 78. Let's take a look at that first. So our power play at 20% was up there. Not one of the best, but it was still up there. And in terms of penalty kill, we had one of the worst. You see us there at the bottom. So we'll definitely address the penalty kill. The power play could be a little bit better. In terms of goals for, we were not up there, but we weren't towards the bottom either. Goals against, shockingly, we didn't finish with the most, but we did have the 4th highest goals against average in the league this season. Bottom line, we need better goaltending heading into the playoffs. It's going to be our only chance. It's going to be our only chance of success. Let's take a look at the point totals. I want to start off with our forwards. So again, Ivanov, 54 points. He's better than that. I mean, but still, that's about his average, 50 to 60. So it's just the plus minus that makes it look worse. So again, is he worth that type of money? No, he's not. But if we ditch him and not get any compensation for it, I don't know if that's going to be for the best. Even if we run him eventually as like an elite third liner, it's still worth keeping him. Ben McCauley, feel like he stepped up this year. 39 points last year, 53 this year, and tied his career high in goals that he put up in his rookie season. So he hits 50 for the 3rd time in 5 seasons. A very good year for him. Kim Nylander was 3rd amongst forwards with 48 points. Extremely disappointing compared to what it looked like we had last year. Now, he still put up 20 goals, which is promising. But in terms of him being that true first liner that we thought we had, that is not the case, unfortunately. Henry Yang, the leader of that third line, I'd say 46 points from a third liner. Granted, he had power play time. Only 5 of those points came on the power play. So maybe we look at taking that third line off of the power play. But we have found gold with Yang, Boro, and Nylander. Boro on 43 points, which is also a career high, up from the 32 he had in his sophomore year. So a great season for him. Jean-Francois, who was in the top 6 this year, down from the 54 points he had. So again, a little bit disappointing. Steven Morose does hit 30 goals again. So at least, I mean, come on, he's basically hit 30 goals in every season of his career. But he took a step back. 18 fewer points this season. Not ideal. Thomas Nylander, though, proved that he can deliver. 40 points, up from the 14 he had in his rookie season. And Ralph Ricci, I think one of the big surprises this season. I wanted him to step up, and he's done well. 33 points in his sophomore year. Or technically his rookie year. He only played 20 games last year. So a big season for him. And Angelo Bachman, the rookie, certainly playing on a higher line than was, certainly needed, but kind of required after the development of our third line. He had 28 points this year. I think the big thing is, though, he's up to an 84. So he's looking very good. Quincy Clements with 26 points, up from the 10 he had last year. And we also have Andrew Sarno, 18 points for him, which, down from the 26 he had last year, but he was in a reduced role. Amongst the defensemen, Zeeler on 43 points, Francois on 40. That's still not an excuse for guys like Morose to not put up the points that he could have. Shattenkirk on 25, Kolosov 17, 12 for Richter, 1 point in 5 games for Victor Saugus. And that's really the big question. I mean, you can talk about line combinations and who should be on the first, second, and third line, even the fourth line. In terms of the defense, though, our big question comes down to Saugus, Vorobiev, or do we waste a year of that guy's ELC and bring him in, our other first round, or one of our other first round picks from last year? All options. And amongst the goaltending, again, it's straightforward, it's simple. Åkerlund needs to step up. He needs to step up if we're going to have a chance. Konowalchuk isn't ready. Fox isn't ready. Again, amongst the defensemen, Blatny and Vorobiev have a chance to step up if we need them to. Forward-wise, Ross Marlowe is there, but I wouldn't say that there's nobody that has, I have a lack of confidence towards in our 12 skaters at the moment, or 12 forwards. Even though, again, Marlowe was great this season, Svoboda and Kretschmann. Those are the big 3 I kept mentioning alongside McAmmond. And I believe the Duel and Narwhal are postseason bound as well. I didn't check for sure. We will in a moment once we get a look around the league. So let's see what we have. As Engqvist and Olassen. Oh my God, thank God we avoided Nashville. Thank God. Alexis Lafreniere's up there. Chris Lindros and Grenier. You see these combos, man. These combos. Besser, Letton, and Tristan Bolt was also. And Jordan Kyrou. Again, you see these dominant top lines that these teams have, the pairings. It's absolutely ridiculous. Rouleau and Curry, it's crazy. Now, of course, I am looking for former players of ours, which thankfully we haven't seen yet and might not see for a while. Gary Lieb, 63 points for one Gary Lieb. $12 million for 63 points. He outscored anybody on our team this year, but no thank you. No thank you. Is there anybody else? Roy Engel, another defenseman, of course, that we've seen. Aiden Meach, now at 34 years old, but still putting up points. Nashville is so sick. So sick. Sergei Nazarov puts up 60 points in Florida. Not bad for a former 7th round pick. 60 points. So, he's done well to return to form a little bit, but it never seemed to work with him. I don't know. It's kind of a weird one. Kind of a weird player. And I mean, as far as where some of our other guys are here, I don't know. You have Gregory Cox, 57 points, 28 goals. For the Sabres, Dylan Redden, 57 points for the Rangers. And as far as the big man himself, where is Fragapani? You have Luke Baldwin kicking around there, 54 points for Arizona. Ivanov at 54, and I mean, Jesus, where is Fragapani at this point? This is getting sad. Steve Krog, 52 points. It's interesting to see where some of these guys are at this point. How far down is Fragapani? Like, this is sad. At this point, Kim Nylander outscored Fragapani. Is he retired? Like, did he somehow retire early? And you could say, check the team, I don't remember. 43 points. He was tied with Jean-Francois in Washington. Yikes. So with that, this season has come to an end, again, as North Bay actually just missed out by 2 points, very disappointingly. Although, actually, wild card? North Bay might still make it. Maybe. 94. Nah, North Bay's screwed. Never mind. North Bay's out. That's all right. We know that we're playoff bound. We know that we are taking on the Los Angeles Kings in the first round, thankfully, rather than taking on the Nashville Predators. Again, options as far as what we look to do in terms of the team setup, but overall, a successful year for us as we have bounced back from that step back just a year ago to being right back into the mix. Thankfully, there's no franchise player that we magically missed out on, but we'll see what happens in that next episode. Looking forward to your suggestions as far as what you think we should do in terms of team setup. There are certainly options. Until next time, though, we are done here for now. I thank you for watching. Have a good one. I'll catch you next time. Thank you for supporting the channel. I've just completely botched this outro. Yeah. Goodbye is what I'm saying.